As we've been hearing, the Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall will set out how the government intends to reform health and disability benefits this afternoon. Despite concern amongst Labour backbenchers, Downing Street insists there is a moral and economic case to overhaul the benefits system.
In theory, the Runcorn and Helsby by-election is an open goal for the Reform Party. Voters will go to the polls in May against a backdrop of unpopular Labour policies. Just last week, in a bid to save £5 billion by the end of this Parliament, the government announced sweeping cuts to a swathe of disability payments. The plans were received poorly.
There is nothing moral about cutting benefits for what may be up to 1 million people. This is not about morality. This is about the Treasury's wish to balance the country's books on the back of the most vulnerable and poor people in this society.
With 4 more years left of this administration to make good, Keir Starmer shouldn't be too worried. But he is about to face his first by-election. Mike Amesbury won the Runcorn and Helsby parliamentary seat for Labour with a thumping majority of almost 15,000 votes in July last year. But then he punched a constituent, lost the Labour whip, resigned the seat, and now voters look like they may switch allegiance. Despite having only 4 MPs, Reform are steaming ahead in the polls. Labour have hemorrhaged favourability, having cut winter fuel payments to pensioners, increased inheritance tax to farmers, and having a propensity to accept free gifts. On the ground in Runcorn, voters aren't happy.
This government's making a right mess of things, and I think we should look at reform for the future to put this country right.
Do you agree with that?
Totally. Exactly. Totally everything that Derek said. I think we need to have a fresh start again, and I think Reform's going to be the one to do it.
Reform know this, but they're walking a tightrope. Many of their voters will want to see cuts, but many of their potential defectors will be recipients.
If you were to be elected, would you campaign against the new PIP cuts?
Well, I think that's quite a national issue.
Yeah, I mean,
there's no doubt about it that there are people abusing the system. And I think that a lot of work needs to be done to stop that abuse. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be people that really do need help and do need those payments. And of course, what I think's happened over years and over successive governments is that it probably has become too easy to abuse the system. And I think that's what upsets people who are taxpayers, who are funding this, but who want to be reassured that the money is going to the people that really need it.
Labour are right.
I think it's something that needs looking at.
Will Labour deliver? And even if they do, as they say, cut the welfare bill by $5 billion. Well, given that it's due to increase from $70 billion to $100 billion between now and 2030, that isn't much of a saving. Do you know, I tell you where we stand really on all of this. I met 4 lads in the pub the other night, all early 20s, came out to have a chat. I said, what do you do? One was a welder, one was a carpenter. They all work together on, construction sites. The sort of people whose alarms go off at 5 o'clock in the morning, drive around the country and work damned hard. And they'd all known each other from school days. And one of them said, he said, we are trying hard, we're getting on. He said, but there's 2 or 3 people in our class from school who've never had a job, never worked, never tried. He said, they've all got a couple of kids. He said, we're working the way we are to fund their lifestyles. And I just want to make this one point really clear. We are on the side of working people, and they are getting very, very disillusioned with the world as they see it. And when it comes to disability benefits of all kinds, just look at where we are and compare it to all of our neighbours, and something's gone fundamentally wrong since the pandemic.
You are to the left of Labour, though, when it comes to welfare cuts. You would not want to see as many cuts as Labour are implementing.
Labour aren't really implementing any. That's the point I'm making.
What about a wealth tax?
Well, if you want to bankrupt us, it's fine. But it would literally... People are leaving already. We have an exodus from this country, and it isn't just the super rich, it's the 30-something entrepreneurs. They're going. and we've got Milan, and we've got we've had Lisbon, Athens is now in it. They're all competing for our brightest and best young people, let alone the talent we're losing to the West Coast in terms of tech and everything else. I think we've already reached a point where we're driving away too many people. And you know what? You don't help those that are poorer by getting rid of those who pay the most amount of tax.
So this is Reform's candidate who's going to be running in Runcorn, and on the campaign leaflet here, it does read like a Labour manifesto or a Labour piece of literature. It says that they're going to create stable, well-paid jobs for the community and challenge Labour and Conservative failures that have led to rising costs and declining job security. You'll notice there's nothing on here actually about immigration, which is sort of what Reform are known for. This is more about the economy. So do you think that Reform could pick up votes here?
Oh, I'm sure they can, yeah. People are dissatisfied with both the Conservatives and the Labour Party, so it's time for a change.
Do you think that Reform have overtaken the Conservatives in the race?
Oh, certainly, yeah. I'm an ex-Conservative, and there's plenty of Conservatives who've left, and plenty who are disillusioned, and it'll be the same for around here.
And what is that? Is that because of the last administration, or is there something that particularly attracts you to Reform?
I think the problem with the Conservatives is they've talked a lot and not delivered. Similarly with the Labour Party, a lot of talk but poor delivery, and people have lost confidence in the ability of the political parties to actually govern the country. So I think people are amenable to giving Reform a chance.
What do you think about when the media says that Reform is the party of the working class? Do you agree with that?
I'm working class. I grew up on the poverty ladder and food banks, so yes, I believe so. I've read the policies, I've campaigned for the policies, I'm a candidate myself. So I think, yes, they are, more than other parties, and for definite.
When you're looking at what Labour are doing at the moment, some of their policies like cutting disability payments or cutting off the winter fuel allowance or even some of the inheritance tax changes, do you think that that represents the working class?
Well, I think if you think about it, think an average UK street, a terrace. How many of those people on that street will have PIP payments? How many people have the winter fuel allowance? Because where I live, there's people affected by that. And I see that, and that makes me upset. I've witnessed that growing up. I've witnessed that now. I witnessed it today, my elderly neighbour. And it makes me angry. And it makes me angry that the Labour government never said that on their campaign literature. Who would say a negative thing? But it upsets me. And I think that's not the way the country should be going.
In the last few weeks, a row with now suspended Reform MP Rupert Lowe threatened to damage the party's election standing. But supporters seem unfazed.
I've never met Rupert Lowe. I've met Nigel a couple of times, but there's always three sides to every story. What he thinks was said, what Nigel thinks was said, and what was actually said. And until we hear all the facts, I'm not going to take sides or anything. Plus the fact that, in any organisation, if it's a tennis club or whatever, there's always fallouts between people on committees and things like this. And if you were to leave every club that you joined because of that, you'd never do anything.
So he should have stuck it out a bit more, do you think, Rupert? With a bit more team spirit?
I think so, but I don't know what he's put up with. There might be reasons why he has, given up and everything like that. But until I know all the facts, and even then, I would still stay with Reform because it's the only party that I think that can help this country.
It certainly feels like Nigel's cult of personality makes him the Teflon leader.
I find him a very good, approachable chap. So,
do you think that when you're putting together the campaigns, do you think that's what attracts voters to him? Do you think it's sort of his approachable nature?
I think he is, because he's not one of these hooray Henrys that you see a lot of the time and everything like that. He likes a beer, he smokes and things like that, which a lot of people still do, but you get bans from places or, you've had 3 pints or whatever,
Will you be voting for Nigel Farage in the upcoming election?
God, no. No, I have morals. I am not a racist. I believe in equality. I believe that he should be preying on a deprived area like Runcorn and Helsby, but yeah. I also believe that we shouldn't be privatising everything. I believe that he shouldn't be cutting benefits, but that's what he wants. And again, I'm just not a racist, so.
Do you think people in the area will vote for him?
Yeah, 100%.
Particularly when you're looking at Labour at the moment, who have just made quite drastic cuts to PIP payments and the winter fuel allowance, do you think they could turn to him?
that is the reason why they will turn for him. So even just taking a look around, you look around the shopping city, all the shops are closed, no one has jobs, and it's not a bad thing. People just don't have the childcare or anything that's funded. He's saying he can promise all that, and he can't. It's going to be if they get in, it'll be the same thing 5 years later, if not worse.
Are you worried about the area?
Yeah, massively.
Runcorn is a city that needs investment. 7 areas in Runcorn are in the 3% most deprived in England. Almost 1 in 3 children are living in poverty. Former Labour Cabinet Minister Liam Byrne recently said that a failure to back a windfall of wealth taxes risks fueling the rise of the populist right. Without that promise of investment from a Labour government, reform will win here.